Good morning and welcome to Zen and the Art of Movies. And we've been working with the movie Avatar last few days. And so in this video, we're going to look at the awakening of Jake Sully. The awakening of Jake Sully, in my opinion, my experience with the movie, is that this was the awakening of James Cameron. In other words, what is it like to awaken? What does it feel like to suddenly wake up, to suddenly have your old personality drop off like ice coming off of a roof in the spring? What does it feel like to have your ego, your sense of self, just drop off? What is that like? So when I saw Avatar and Jake Sully waking up as a Navi in his new body, I was blown away because his experience was my experience back in 1968. So let me share with you. I don't share this to toot my horn, but in 1968, I was teaching high school in Northern Virginia, and I went to sleep. Somebody said, listen to this audio tape. Some guy named Krishnamurti. So I went to sleep listening to this audio tape of Krishnamurti, and when I woke up in the morning, it was exactly like Jake Sully when he woke up in his avatar body. Suddenly, my body was a new body. I had a little motorcycle, and I was riding, and I rode it like Evel Knievel, and I started doing extreme lotus postures. I could stand on my head. Everything was fresh and new, and suddenly I knew who I was, and everything was. I was like Adam on the face of on the earth, waking up. I was born again. The old personality, the old Ed Conley, had fallen off during the night and didn't wake up. And I had no idea what had happened to me. I had not been in any training with a guru, or I was not in any spiritual tradition. But suddenly, just like Jake Sully in the Avatar, I was new again. The world was new again. I was seeing everything for the first time, and it was magnificent. It was wonderful. The trees were green. The music, when I heard music, I was the music. When I read a book, I was the book. When I read Walt Whitman, I was speaking the words of Walt Whitman as he spoke them. I opened the Bible and read the words of Jesus, and I was speaking the words of Jesus as he spoke. I wasn't Jesus, but I was speaking the words of Jesus or Walt Whitman as he spoke. And this now, in all these years, I'm 88 now, and all these years later, I'm still integrating the awakening of Jake Sully, the awakening experience. And not that I'm trying to retrieve it or anything, but what I do is I integrate it and make it and see it in my current life. For instance, in Zen, it is said that when you awaken, you will meet the patriarchs face to face. You will meet the Zen masters face to face. What does that mean? Does that mean you'll see some old man sitting on a mountaintop face to face? No. A good story illustrates that. When there was back in a story from Australia, and some Englishmen were going with an Aboriginal tracker, and they couldn't. And they said, "How can you track an animal over bare rock? How can you do that?" And the tracker looked kind of puzzled, and he said, "Well, I just go into dream time and I walk with the animal as he's walking." And that struck with me, because meeting the patriarchs face to face, meeting Walt Whitman face to face, is going into a dream time, an intermediate zone, an awakening zone, a reality that we are missing, going into that reality, that real, and speaking with the poet as he speaks. And I actually experienced that when I read Walt Whitman, The Song of the Soul. I was Walt Whitman speaking those words, but I wasn't Walt Whitman. So there was no either or. I'm Walt Whitman or I'm not Walt Whitman. So this awakening of Jake Sully, for me, is a profound experience in a movie, and you should watch it again and look at it from a different viewpoint. He woke up to a new body, and then he went through the process of going into Pandora as a Marine, as a human, with a human mind, a human viewpoint, and he gradually left the human world and entered into and inhabited the Pandora world. And his girlfriend, Nevriti, whatever, was his guide, and trained him on the ways of being awake, trained him on the ways of being free, and trained him on the ways of body wisdom, on faith. Because a lot of Jake Sully's training was learning how to leap on faith, trusting the moment, trusting your body. Not your training, your talking points, not your practice, not your theories, not your beliefs, you see, but trusting your body. And this is called the leap of faith, because Jake Sully had to leap off a cliff, trusting that he would able to go. Remember, he would jump off a cliff and go through the jungle, and he learned how to trust. He's like a cat. In other words, Jake Sully had to learn how to be like a cat. Or Spider-Man. See, all of our movies have these heroic, are about heroes, but they're all about awakening, about being free from fear, about being free from memory of what is, about being free from our sense of personality, this little sense of self, this little ego, you see, being free from that. And you can't get free from it by training, by doing it. It has to fall off spontaneously when you're ready. And I don't know what happened to me back in 1968, why my personality fell off like that. And when I woke up, I was in a new world. I was seeing the world for the first time, and full of energy, full of joy, and an amazing sense of unity with everything. But you see, it began to fade, and it began to drift away, and my Pandora began to wave at me and say, "Bye-bye, I'll be back. I'll be back. But you have miles to go before you sleep, or miles to go before you wake," you see, because I had much work to do with the karma of my personality. You have to deconstruct it slowly, and you have to work at it as a practice, as a lifelong vow to be real, to wake up, you see. So it's not, I've called this a premature awakening. And the big fault with the premature awakening is that you have no tradition, you have no guru, you have no practice, you don't know what the hell has happened, and the ego will come in and lap it up and say, "Oh, how great I am now! I must be a guru. I'm going to go start teaching people and be a famous guru," and yada 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 and so forth. Now, a spiritual ego has replaced the old personality ego, and that's much harder to get rid of. So anyway, watch Avatar again with a new viewpoint and see it for the first time. Thanks for dropping in.